Welcome to day number 2 in our response hacking email course. Today we are going to take a quick lesson to review the only 5 actions you could take with any email you receive. Now, just acknowledging what these 5 actions are helps you manage email and these requests for your time and attention much more quickly and much more efficiently. But the important key that I want to point out here is acknowledging what these 5 things are will help you get more of what you want out of the email you send to others. If you decide ahead of time which one of these 5 actions they'll need to take, and then write the email in a way that guides them to do so. So keep that in mind, and I'll give you some tips and examples as we go. The first action is delete or archive. This is when receiving the email itself and consuming the content of that email is really the only purpose. In other words, the email was the vehicle for the information it carried. An example might be if you receive an FYI email, if you receive a memo, if you receive maybe a blog subscription like mine at conradflynn.com. You subscribe to the blog because you're interested in the stories that the writer posts. So you get an email when there's a new story, you click it, you read it, and that's it. Delete it. The email has served its purpose. Now, sometimes we want to hang on to things for future reference, and that's when archiving can be useful. But email is really bad at this. So if you need to archive email, I suggest you do that someplace actually outside of email. I know Gmail spoiled us with that archive button, but the truth is, I can't find anything in my Gmail when I ever need it again. I use another tool that's called Evernote, which you could start using for free to archive email, and I can find it much more quickly. Now, if you're sending someone an email that they might need to archive for future reference, my suggestion would be tell them to print it. This is especially useful if it's like an event confirmation, or a purchase order confirmation, or something that they'll need to reference in the short-term future. Maybe even it's a confirmation for an appointment that you set with them. Hey, print this out and keep it by your phone or keep it by your computer or wherever it is you'll be when we're going to talk next. Very, very useful. The second action is delegate. Now, a lot of people don't do this enough, but as a business owner, entrepreneur, or manager, I would encourage you to think about what you could delegate every time you get an email. Just ask yourself, can someone else do this better than I can, or can someone else do it more quickly than I can right now? And if you can answer yes, consider sending it to somebody else. Now, sometimes you need to send an email that requires someone to delegate. My suggestion is don't place the task or request for their time and attention on the recipient. Instead, directly send them an email asking who they'll delegate it to. And here's how that works. You might say something like, hey, I know that your time is very valuable and that you're really busy. Who would you say I should send this request to? And get them to tell you. And then you can send the email yourself, copy them. Chances are you're going to get them to respond and give you that information substantially quicker than if you make them sit down, think about it, and think, geez, who can I delegate this to? Or even worse, they don't delegate it, and then you're just waiting and waiting and waiting much longer than you would have had to in order to get them to provide the answer or the information that you needed. The third one is respond immediately. Now, my rule with email is if I could respond by hitting reply and stopping the line of questioning and stopping the line of communication by satisfying the sender in less than 1 minute, I'm going to drop what I'm doing and just do it and get that email out of my life as quickly as possible. Now, sometimes you're going to send emails that require a response, and the sooner the better, right? So simply state in your email, hey, hit reply right now and let me know. That way, it prompts them to do it immediately. You get a prompt answer without too much extra thinking on their part. Chances of getting what you want in a short amount of time radically increase. So response hack your email by simply telling them to respond if that's what you need them to do. The fourth one is defer it. This one's tricky. This is when the email actually becomes part of a task or a project, and email was just the vehicle to bring that request to your attention. So this has nothing to do with the email itself. Now, if you're sending email that requires someone to kick off a task or a project, and take responsibility for something, my biggest suggestion that would help you get more success out of your email communications is really simple. Don't do this via email. Instead, send them an email that asks them for a dedicated piece of time where you can discuss that task or project with them. So instead of outlining all the criteria of a new project in the email, say, hey, can we get together for about 15 minutes? Here's the topic of our discussion. Here's why it's important. And you might offer to do that conversation via phone, Skype, or even better, in person. The key thing here is not only will they commit to taking on your project and engaging with you, and they'll do that much more quickly, but here's the thing, their respect for you is going to absolutely skyrocket because you've handled it in this way, and that's important too. The fifth and final one is do it now. This is when you receive emails that are either very urgent or very time sensitive, and you need to physically stop what you're doing and act on it. I would recommend you doing this to the least number of emails you receive. Save it for the ones that are truly an emergency, because if you find yourself doing this again and again throughout the day, and sort of using email as a reactionary way, using it as sort of a reactionary to-do list, chances are you're not in control of your time, someone else is. And that's a dangerous place to be. Now, if you need to send email that requires someone to do it now, you have to be careful because it could turn you into a giant a-hole pretty quick, if you know what I mean. Now, here's the thing. You need to do this only when it truly is an emergency, but be direct. And you might start doing it in the email subject line itself, saying, client emergency needed now. Be very upfront, be very direct. Don't beat around the bush and let the recipient sort of assess if it truly is an emergency or not. I think time and time again, we're a little bit too concerned about someone's feelings when we send them an email, and we wind up not getting what we want. They don't know what to do, and it creates more bad feelings all around just because we were afraid to say, I really need this right now, and if you don't get to this email within the next 20 minutes, don't worry about it because my need for this will expire. A lot of people are afraid to send an email like that. But the truth is, if your recipient is left to guess if it's super urgent or if it really is an emergency, they have their own stuff on their plate. They have their own stuff to do. The chances of them guessing what you want them to guess are really slim, and that only makes communication harder and worse later down the line. Now, the key thing here is you're upfront, you're direct, and you tell them this is why I need you to do it now, but you can't be the boy who cried wolf. You may only use this when it truly is an emergency, because if they decide that it's not and you've been overdoing it, your relationship with that person will sour quickly. And that would be the opposite of what I'm trying to help you do. So that is it. That is day 2. I hope you found it very useful and beneficial. Tomorrow, we are going to take a look at day 3 with our 5-step template for writing the most effective emails. This is the highest converting, best performing messages I know how to write. And we're going to give you the 5 steps. I'll give you templates and examples, and I would encourage you to start using them right away. In the meantime, between now and then, remember these 5 things: delete, delegate, respond, defer, and do it now as the only 5 actions you may take when you receive an email, and the only 5 actions someone receiving your email can take. You'll be a lot more effective and get what you want a lot more quickly if you help them choose the right one in your email that you send. That's day 2. I hope you're enjoying Response Hacking Email Mini Course. I'm Conrad Flynn. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below or email Conrad at conradflynn.com.